I want you to imagine sitting on your couch, right? It's mid-May.
Okay.
The snow is totally gone. Days are getting longer. Maybe the NBA playoffs are murmuring in the background.
Right. Typical spring setup.
Exactly. But your main screen, it is not a baseball game in the second inning. And it's definitely not some, like, meaningless spring practice scrimmage.
Oh, absolutely not.
No. You are watching a live, high-stakes, brutally competitive college football game
In May.
in May. I mean, there are NFL scouts pacing the sidelines. You've got a packed stadium of fans and T-shirts and massive television network branding plastered all over the field.
Because in this specific scenario, the sport just never actually stops.
Right. We are looking at a literal 12-month calendar of elite, completely meaningful football.
Which is, I mean, it's a radical image, right?
Right.
Primarily because our entire biological sports clock as American viewers is just so deeply conditioned.
Oh, totally.
We associate college football with, autumn leaves and freezing November rain.
Yeah.
But the visual you just painted, it's actually the foundation of this highly detailed structural teardown of the sport's current ecosystem.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this because that is the exact premise of the source material we are diving into today.
It really is a fascinating framework.
Yeah, it's from a platform called the Film Room Remix, and they specialize in basically breaking down the architecture of sports leagues.
Right. Asking the really dangerous questions about how they could be entirely re-engineered.
Yeah, and they aren't just proposing, like, minor tweaks to the playoff format or, slightly adjusting the transfer portal windows.
No, they are going way further than that.
They are suggesting we completely detonate the NCAA structure as we know it, just tear it down and rebuild it into two distinct, completely separate entities, a fall league and a spring league.
Which is just a profound structural thought experiment when you really sit with it.
It really is.
Because it takes the foundational assumptions of how college athletics have operated for, well over a century, right?
Oh, easily.
And it rewrites the logistical, the financial, and even the competitive rule books basically from scratch.
Right.
And what's crucial for you to understand right out of the gate here is that this proposal isn't born out of some simple desire for just, more football.
No, it's not just a cash grab.
Exactly. It's an attempted mechanical solution to what is essentially a massive mathematical failure in the current system.
Okay, let's unpack that failure right now. Because to understand why anyone would even propose tearing down a system that already generates, billions of dollars, we really have to look at the staggering reality of the data.
The numbers are pretty jarring.
They really are. Our source material highlights this incredible data point from Fox Sports. It shows that roughly 67.7% of all active NFL players, and we're talking the vast majority of the 1,100-plus guys currently on Sunday rosters, they come from Power 5 programs.
Right, the major legacy conferences,
Yeah.
the SECs and Big Tens of the world.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the group of 5 schools, the smaller FBS programs, they supply only about 13% of NFL talent.
Wow. That's a massive drop-off.
Right. And then the rest just sort of trickles in from the FCS, Division II, Division III, or, international pathways. It is this incredibly heavy, enduring concentration of talent, isolated in just a handful of major programs.
What's fascinating here is that we really have to fundamentally separate the concept of a talent gap from an exposure gap.
Oh, that's a great point.
Because the current statistical reality doesn't simply mean that all the best football players just happen to organically go to the biggest schools.
Right. It's not that simple.
No, it means the current system is literally mathematically structured to guarantee that top-tier talent at smaller schools will just fall through the cracks.
They just go completely unseen.
Completely unseen. Because we are dealing with a wildly oversaturated market.
Yeah, I mean, every single college team in the country is basically playing on the exact same Saturdays in the fall.
Exactly. And the scouts, the national media, the television executives, and even just you, the general audience, everyone has a finite amount of attention bandwidth.
You can only watch so many screens at once.
Right. So people are naturally going to gravitate toward the biggest brands with the largest stadiums.
I always look at it like it's an invisible theater.
How do you mean?
Well, Say you are a phenomenal edge rusher, right? Like a generational physical freak playing at a group of five school, but your game kicks off at 3:30 p.m. on a Saturday in October.
Oh, right in the thick of it.
Right. That's the exact same time Alabama is playing Georgia and Ohio State is playing Michigan.
Right.
Nobody is watching you. I mean, the scouts can only physically be on one press box at a time. The national media can only really cover one primary storyline.
Yeah, the bandwidth just isn't there.
So these players at the smaller schools, they might have the exact same measurables, right? The exact same breakaway speed, the same football IQ as the guys at the powerhouse schools, but they are literally performing in a vacuum.
Precisely. And, the logistical nightmare of scouting just completely exacerbates this issue.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Think about it. If you are an NFL general manager and you have a finite travel budget, plus a limited staff of regional scouts, you have to engage in risk management.
Right. You play the odds.
Exactly. You send your top evaluators to the SEC or the Big Ten because the sheer density of draftable players on the field is higher.
You get more bang for your buck.
Right. You simply do not have the logistical capacity to send a senior scout to some midweek game in the Mid-American Conference on the off chance that one specific linebacker turns out to be legitimate.
The timeline just doesn't allow for it at all.
No, it really doesn't.
Which I think leads us right to the core of this entire blueprint. Because the proposal from the Film Room Remix essentially argues that to solve this massive bottleneck, you can't just add another playoff round.
Right, a Band-Aid won't fix it.
Exactly. You need the two-season split, the grand split.
Let's really drill down into how they define the tiers of this proposed reality.
Yeah, let's look at the numbers.
So they are outlining a fall tier, which we'll call Tier 1, consisting of roughly 50 to 60 teams.
Okay, so a pretty exclusive group.
Right. This captures your current Power 5 programs, plus maybe the highest performing non-P5 teams. And this group remains the absolute crown jewel of college football.
Still playing in that traditional autumn window.
Exactly.
Okay, and contrasting that, you have the spring tier, right? Tier 2.
Yes, and this would be slightly larger, consisting of 60 to 80 teams.
So that absorbs the remainder of the group of 5 schools.
Exactly, along with the incredibly strong, dominant programs coming up from the FCS level.
Okay, so this tier essentially transitions into a true dedicated developmental league, and it's operating on a completely shifted calendar.
Right, a completely different timeline.
I look at the current fall schedule like a massive, chaotic, 130-lane highway.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, you have all these cars, all these different programs speeding along from September to November, but they all have to merge into a single one-lane toll booth on Saturday afternoons just to get national television exposure.
It is totally oversaturated.
Right. Traffic jams everywhere. Great players are getting stuck miles behind the noise. But this split, it basically takes half of those cars and builds a completely new wide-open highway system that runs right alongside the first one.
But they open it on Sundays, Thursdays, and Fridays in the spring.
Exactly. It clears the congestion entirely.
That is an excellent way to visualize the logistical relief this provides.
Yeah.
Let's analyze the fall semester's purpose under this new model, though, because they are shrinking the pool from over 130 teams down to a concentrated 50 or 60.
Right.
So the primary purposes of the traditional season are not just preserved, they are vastly amplified.
Because all the filler is gone.
Exactly. The Fall League is engineered for maximum national television draw. It preserves those traditional, century-old regional rivalries.
Which the fans obviously demand.
Right.
Yeah.
It dictates the playoff access for the ultimate national championship. And crucially, it aligns perfectly with the traditional NFL draft preparation timeline.
Yeah, the consolidation of these major programs is honestly fascinating when you look at the mock-ups they provided for these new mega conferences.
Oh, the theoretical alignments are incredible.
Right. Imagine turning on your TV and watching the what they call the Southeastern Premier Conference.
Just a gauntlet.
It's insane. You have consolidated Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Auburn, Florida, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Kentucky into one brutal heavyweight division.
Every single week is a marquee matchup.
Exactly. Or consider a Midwest Power Conference featuring Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Notre Dame, and Wisconsin.
Bloodbaths every Saturday.
And they also outline a Big Plains Conference with Texas, Oklahoma, and TCU, right? Plus a Pacific Elite with USC, Oregon, and Washington, and a Big Atlantic with Clemson, Florida State, and Miami.
Right. And when you look at those groupings, from a broadcasting and a financial perspective, you are looking at the absolute ultimate distillation of product quality.
It's all killer, no filler.
Exactly. You're actively removing the dilution from the fall schedule. By mathematically guaranteeing that these massive legacy brands are playing each other every single week, you eliminate these so-called cupcake games.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right. There are no more mid-November games where some powerhouse program pays an FCS school $2 million to come get beaten by 50 points just so they can rest their starters.
Yeah, those games are terrible television.
They really are. But in this system, every single week becomes a clash of titans.
Which is an advertiser's absolute dream scenario. I mean, if I am an executive at Fox or ESPN, my ad rates for any given Saturday just skyrocketed.
Because the floor for viewership is incredibly high.
Right. The prime real estate for TV viewing is totally maximized because you never have a dead time slot. But, and this is where I think the skepticism naturally creeps in for me.
Oh, for sure. There are hurdles.
Yeah. A two-tier system sounds incredibly lucrative for the Alabamas and the Ohio States at the very top. But if I am an athletic director at a group of 5 school and you tell me I am being moved to the spring league, my boosters are going to riot.
Oh, they will lose their minds.
Right. They are going to scream that we are being permanently branded as a minor league, a tier 2 afterthought, and that our recruiting is going to absolutely crater. How does the spring league actually survive that initial perception?
Well, that is the most critical hurdle this entire proposal faces. If the spring league is perceived merely as the loser's bracket, it will collapse entirely.
It would fold in a year.
Exactly. However, the structural advantages and the sheer visibility offered by the spring schedule are designed to counter that exact fear.
Okay, let's explore that. How does it solve the visibility problem for those smaller programs?
By moving these 60 to 80 schools to the spring, they suddenly gain these incredibly valuable, exclusive Thursday through Sunday television windows.
Oh, and here's the absolute kicker. They have 0 NFL competition. None.
The Super Bowl has already been played.
Right. The NFL season is entirely over. That massive shadow that basically swallows everything in the fall is completely gone.
Exactly. And as the source material notes, there is also significantly less overlap with the grueling peak of the college basketball season, especially once March Madness concludes.
That's true. You suddenly have a captive audience of literally millions of football-starved American sports fans who are just desperately looking for something to watch in April and May.
Right. Think about the television contracts these spring programs could negotiate when they are completely outside of the NFL's broadcasting footprint.
It would be night and day.
It really would. In the current fall system, smaller conferences are constantly scrambling for, like, Tuesday night or Wednesday night broadcast slots on secondary channels.
Oh yeah, the phenomenon fans affectionately call M-baction.
Exactly. They do that just to get any national airtime at all. But in the spring, a Thursday night game between 2 solid Tier 2 programs is literally the only live football on television.
Right. Networks like Amazon, Apple, or the traditional cable giants would bid aggressively for that exclusive live inventory. It's the difference between fighting for scraps at a crowded buffet and being, like, the only restaurant open in town.
That's a great way to put it.
And beyond just the television screens, the source points out the profound atmospheric benefits for the actual campuses themselves.
Oh, the local impact would be huge.
Right. Think about the physical experience for the students, the alumni, and the local economies. You are inherently going to get better stadium attendance because you are playing after the harsh winter has actually passed.
Yes, the environmental factor absolutely cannot be ignored, particularly for schools up in the Midwest or the Northeast.
Exactly. Imagine a rivalry week that lines up perfectly with the university spring break.
That would be wild.
Or imagine hosting your homecoming game in beautiful 75-degree spring weather instead of, freezing rain and sleet in late November.
The text actually specifically highlights the potential for an uproar of school pride during this time.
Oh, I totally see that. For universities that already have strong spring traditions, shifting football to this window would just amplify the on-campus energy tenfold.
It transforms the actual product because a packed, sun-drenched stadium in April looks significantly better on television than a half-empty freezing stadium in November.
100%.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the broader economic reality of sports media, the financial implications of this entire fall-spring split are absolutely staggering.
I mean, they have to be.
From a corporate broadcasting perspective, entities like ESPN, Fox, or the streaming giants suddenly have something they have literally been chasing for decades.
It is.
12 uninterrupted months of live, elite, meaningful football. It creates a perpetual content engine.
Oh, wow. which fundamentally changes the entire secondary sports media ecosystem, too.
Absolutely.
Right now, sports talk radio and daily television shows spend April and May arguing about, like, draft rumors or manufacturing debates about off-season workouts.
Because they literally have no live football to discuss.
Right. But in this new reality, those Tuesday morning talking head shows have actual high-stakes games from the Spring League to break down. The content wheel just never stops spinning.
Furthermore, the Spring League isn't just playing out some schedule of exhibitions for participation trophies.
No, the stakes are real.
Very real. They're competing for their own new independent championships. And the source text makes a vital point right here.
What's that?
A championship recognized independently for the Spring League
Yeah.
translates directly into new, massive revenue stream.
Oh, because you are inventing an entirely new postseason.
Exactly. This means new bowl games, new corporate sponsorship opportunities, new stadium naming rights, and entirely new broadcast bidding wars.
So the economic pie doesn't just get sliced differently to accommodate the smaller schools. The entire pie is basically massively expanded.
Yeah.
Okay, so the TV money makes sense, the exclusive broadcast windows make total sense, and the spring weather is obviously a massive upgrade.
Right.
But we still haven't solved the core existential dread of a Tier 2 program.
The stagnation issue.
Yeah. Even with better TV ratings in April, how does a program actually grow?
Right.
If you are a school investing heavily in your facilities and your coaching staff, how do you ever break into that crown jewel fall tier? Because you cannot have a closed loop where the wealthy just stay wealthy and the rest are locked out forever.
No, you really can't. And you are identifying the exact vulnerability that necessitates the most radical mechanism in this entire blueprint.
Okay, lay it on me.
To prevent the system from stagnating and to provide a real, tangible pathway for program growth, the proposal introduces a dynamic engine of mobility.
Mobility between the tiers.
Yes, it is a concept that is deeply familiar to global sports fans, but one that is completely alien and, frankly, terrifying to American college sports administrators.
Let me guess. Promotion and relegation.
Promotion and relegation.
Okay, I want to make sure we get the absolute granular mechanics of this right based on the source material.
Sure.
They are proposing a cycle operating somewhere between every 2 to 4 years.
Right, a defined block of time.
And at the conclusion of that defined cycle, the absolute bottom 4 performing teams in the Tier 1 Fall League are dropped.
Yes, they are demoted, relegated entirely down to the Spring League.
Wow. And simultaneously, the top 4 performing programs from the Tier 2 Spring League rise up.
Right, they are promoted to the Fall League, entering that absolute highest echelon of the sport.
Okay, that is just.
It's the exact mechanism they use in Europe. And the primary justification for this, as it's explicitly stated in the framework, is to generate the kind of high-stakes, existential television drama that currently defines the English Premier League in European soccer.
It incentivizes fierce, desperate competition at the very bottom of the Tier 1 standing.
Exactly.
Okay, but I have to stop and push back on the reality of this.
Go ahead.
Are you honestly telling me that a historic blue blood powerhouse like a massive state university with a 100,000-seat stadium, a century of tradition, and billionaire boosters?
I know you're going with this.
Right. Would they ever sign a contract where they could legitimately get relegated to playing their games in April?
It's a tough sell.
The university presidents and athletic directors would literally burn their conferences to the ground before agreeing to a system that could demote them. The financial risk is catastrophic.
It is a massive risk. But we have to look at the current trajectory of media rights. The massive television networks are already, in a shadow capacity, enforcing a form of relegation.
Oh, that is a really interesting point.
Look at the recent conference realignments, right? The networks effectively relegated the remnants of the Pac-12 by simply refusing to pay premium dollars for their media rights.
Wow. Yeah, they basically just squeezed them out.
Exactly. The money is already dictating who gets to sit at the big table. This proposal simply formalizes that reality into a competitive, on-field metric rather than a boardroom negotiation.
Okay, so the shadow relegation is already happening. We're just making it official.
Precisely. And from a television product standpoint, the viewing habits of the American sports fan would fundamentally shift.
How so?
Currently, a late-season game in November between 2 legacy teams with losing records draws almost zero national interest.
Right. It's just dead airtime. Nobody cares.
But under a promotion and relegation system, suddenly, that exact same game becomes the most tense, dramatic television of the entire weekend.
Oh, because they are fighting to survive.
Exactly. Millions of people who don't even care about those specific schools would be glued to their screens, watching two massive programs fight for their lives at the bottom of the standings, just to avoid the financial and reputational disaster of being sent down to the spring league.
The stakes become absolute.
Complete life or death for the program.
The drama would be unbelievable. I mean, a coach's entire career, the university's enrollment numbers, the booster donations, all of it hanging on a 4th and goal in the fourth quarter just to avoid relegation.
It's unmatched television.
But let's flip the perspective for a second. Let's look at what this mobility does for the programs in Tier 2.
It's a game changer for them.
Right. It promotes long-term organic program growth in a way the current system actively suppresses. And the source actually identifies a concept they call the sleeping giants.
Right. The sleeping giants represent arguably the most compelling argument for this entire meritocracy.
Yeah, the text specifically calls out programs like Memphis, Appalachian State, and Boise State.
Yes. These are universities that have historically just punched far above their weight class.
Constantly.
They invest heavily in football, they have deeply passionate fan bases, and they frequently upset major programs.
But in the current fall system, they are constantly hitting a glass ceiling.
They can never truly break through.
Right. They can go undefeated, they can pull off a miracle season, but they are consistently held back by subjective poll rankings and a playoff system that inherently favors the legacy brands.
Because a committee of people in a boardroom essentially decides their fate based on, quote-unquote strength of schedule.
Which is a metric the smaller schools literally cannot control because the big schools refuse to play them.
Exactly. It's a catch-22.
But under this new proposal, they don't have to beg a committee for respect. They don't have to rely on subjective rankings. They rise naturally based purely on their performance on the field.
It's entirely objective.
If you win your games in the spring league, you get promoted to the fall, period. It replaces a subjective oligarchy with a pure meritocracy.
And to facilitate this upward mobility, the framework also includes a mechanism they term wild card or play-in teams.
I really found the mechanics of this part of the breakdown interesting. The source lists teams like Tulane, Cincinnati, UCF, and Coastal Carolina.
Right, the classic bracket buster programs.
Exactly. They are the ones that consistently threaten the established order and crash the major bowl games. Under this framework, these teams could earn what the proposal calls a Tier 1 at-large promotion.
Which is brilliant.
It provides a tangible, defined pathway to sit at the big table for a 2- or 4-year cycle based entirely on their recent dominance.
Which inevitably leads to a highly complex administrative challenge.
Oh, the bureaucracy would be wild.
It really would. The text describes this as the bubble program phenomenon. And Southern Methodist University, SMU, is highlighted as the absolute perfect case study for this exact tension.
Oh, let's really dive into SMU because they are located down in Dallas, Texas. And the text singles them out because they represent the perfect storm of a bubble program.
They check every single box.
They really do. They have deep historical college football tradition. They have incredible financial resources, wealthy alumni, aggressive boosters, and crucially, they're located in a prime NFL television market.
The Dallas market is huge.
Massive. So the proposal places them in a mock Gulf and Southwest Spring Conference alongside schools like North Texas, UTSA, and Rice.
Right.
But it notes that SMU could fiercely lobby to be a Tier 1-2 flex program.
And this is where the political and economic maneuvering behind the scenes of this new system would become a sport unto itself.
Oh, it'd be Game of Thrones behind closed doors.
Totally. A program like SMU, armed with their tradition and their capital, would absolutely employ an army of lawyers and lobbyists to argue for flex status.
They wouldn't go down without a fight.
Never. You'd see athletic directors leveraging their geographic market size, their massive name, image, and likeness, or NIL collectives, and their historical television ratings.
Just to argue that they inherently belong in the fall league, regardless of the strict promotion and relegation mathematics.
Exactly. Imagine SMU finishes 5th from the bottom in Tier 1 at the end of a cycle, meaning they technically survive relegation.
Okay, by the skin of their teeth.
Right. But a team like Boise State absolutely dominates the spring league.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Do the fall conferences try to bend the rules to keep the Dallas television market, even if Boise State technically earned the spot on the field?
Oh, wow. It introduces an element of intense administrative warfare.
It forces us to acknowledge the inherent friction between the romance of promotion and relegation and the cold reality of media markets.
Right, highlighting that even in a theoretically pure meritocracy, financial leverage and market size still play a massive role in shaping the landscape.
Always.
But regardless of the boardroom politics, the fluid movement of these teams entirely changes the landscape of college football.
It's basically the Wild West.
It is. But we have to take a step back and remember the ultimate purpose of this sport for so many of these athletes.
The professional pipeline.
Exactly. Beyond the university pride and the television contracts, college football is, at its core, a pipeline to the professional ranks. It serves as the de facto minor leagues for the NFL.
Which is a huge responsibility.
So if we shift 60 to 80 entire programs representing thousands of players to the spring, how does that actually impact the scouts?
The people doing the actual evaluations.
Right. The men and women whose literal job it is to find the next generation of NFL stars. This brings us to a section the source material basically frames as the scout's dream.
Yes. And the evolution of the scouting window under this two-season proposal is perhaps its most practical, immediate, and tangible benefit for the professional ranks.
Okay, break that down for us.
We touched on this earlier, but we really need to deeply understand the logistical nightmare of the current system. Scouts are tasked with watching hundreds of teams simultaneously over a compressed, roughly 13-week period in the fall.
It's a frantic race against the clock.
It's nearly impossible.
A regional scout might start their Saturday morning at some massive SEC tailgate evaluating a first-round offensive lineman, right?
Right.
And then they have to physically rush to an airport, fly 2 states over, rent a car, and try to catch the second half of a Sun Belt conference game just to watch an under-the-radar wide receiver.
It is exhausting, and it's incredibly inefficient.
And inevitably, they are forced to prioritize the major conferences simply because of travel logistics.
Exactly. But the Spring League changes all of that by completely deconflicting the scouting calendar.
Oh, because the dates are entirely different.
Right. By moving the Tier 2 teams to the spring, you're creating exclusive, dedicated, monthly scouting windows that occur after the NFL's Fall Combine and primary evaluation period.
It's brilliant sequencing.
It really is.
The scouts spend their entire fall evaluating the Tier 1 league. They go to the traditional NFL Combine in February.
Right.
And then, right when the scouts would normally be relying entirely on static, rehearsed pro day workouts in empty gymnasiums to evaluate the smaller school guys.
They're suddenly presented with a vibrant, live-action Spring League.
Exactly. They can travel to these smaller campuses and watch full-contact, highly competitive, meaningful games with zero scheduling conflicts from the major programs.
It transforms the evaluation process from theoretical to practical. A scout doesn't have to guess how a group of 5 prospect looks in game speed based on a cone drill and shorts.
They can literally sit in the bleachers in April and watch him tackle someone.
It creates a true developmental league atmosphere where the entire ecosystem is geared toward professional evaluation.
And you really see that developmental focus in the specific conference mock-ups they provided. My absolute favorite detail in the entire source document is the creation of what they call the FCS Power Pool.
Oh, that is a highly strategic grouping.
It's genius. They suggest taking the top 12 absolutely dominant FCS programs, teams like North Dakota State, South Dakota State, James Madison, Montana, Delaware, even Ivy League schools like Yale and Harvard,
Right.
and grouping them into one concentrated scouting pool.
Which saves the scouts so much time.
Think about a program like North Dakota State. They have consistently produced high-profile, high-draft pick quarterbacks and offensive linemen.
For years now.
But in the current fall system, a scout has to weigh whether a trip to Fargo, North Dakota is worth missing a massive Big Ten matchup.
It's a tough call to make.
But under this model,
Yeah.
imagine a scout being able to focus entirely on an FCS Power Pool game in late April. They don't have to worry about missing anything else.
You are consolidating the hidden gems into one incredibly accessible, highly competitive showcase. But this massive shift in the evaluation timeline introduces a severe structural problem for the NFL.
Oh, like what?
Well, to accommodate a spring league that finishes its season in May or June, the proposal necessitates significant foundational changes to the NFL draft process itself.
Right, because the draft is in April.
Exactly. The source text outlines a solution that effectively bifurcates the draft.
Okay, let's really break down the mechanics of this, because this is where the logistics get incredibly specific and highly consequential for the athletes.
It's a major shift.
For the Fall League, the Tier 1 schools playing in the traditional autumn window, nothing changes.
Right. They maintain the standard legacy draft schedule.
Their players finish their bowl games in January, they attend the Combine in February, and they get drafted in late April. They are still the players competing to be the absolute first overall pick in the draft. The traditional pageantry remains intact.
However, for the Spring League, those athletes are obviously still playing live football in April and May.
Yeah, you can't be drafted in April if your season isn't even over yet.
So they enter what the proposal officially designates as the supplementary draft.
And when does that happen?
That takes place much later in the summer, specifically after their spring finals are complete.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
I look at this bifurcated draft like a major corporation doing two distinct rounds of hiring.
That's a good way to frame it.
You have your massive fall career fair, which is geared toward the massive state schools and the Ivy Leagues.
Right.
But then you hold a dedicated secondary summer hiring blitz exclusively for the smaller regional colleges, ensuring that nobody gets lost in the massive shuffle of the first round.
That analogy perfectly captures the intent. Let's examine the why behind this innovation.
Okay.
If you are a highly rated high school prospect, or even a current college player considering a transfer, your primary concern about playing in the Spring League is that your draft stock will plummet.
Oh, definitely. The internal monologue is basically, if I am not playing in the fall on national television alongside the SEC guys, the NFL general managers will just forget about me, and I will lose millions of dollars in my rookie contract.
Right. It's the fear of being out of sight, out of mind.
Totally rational fear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this bifurcated draft, operating the regular draft in April and the supplementary draft in July, gives athletes in the smaller programs the time and the institutional security to be evaluated equally.
It levels the playing field.
It does. The system ensures that a legitimate top 15 talent who happens to be playing a spring schedule won't arbitrarily drop to the third round simply because of when his games are played.
Because the scouts know the Spring League exists, the exclusive viewing windows guarantee the players are actually seen.
And the supplementary draft provides the formal contractual mechanism to acquire them at their true market value.
Which fundamentally shifts how an NFL general manager has to operate.
Completely.
I mean, how does a GM allocate their rookie salary cap under the system? Right now, an NFL team gets a set pool of money to pay their rookies, and they just spend it all during the April draft.
Right.
But under this proposal, a GM would have to strategically manage that capital.
They'd have to plan months in advance.
Exactly. They might say, okay, we drafted our quarterback in April, but we know there is a dominant edge rusher playing in the Spring League who fits our scheme perfectly.
So they have to save some money.
Right. We are going to intentionally hold back a portion of our rookie salary cap and reserve our supplementary draft picks to target him in July. It adds an entirely new layer of complex resource management to the NFL front office.
But ultimately, it removes the penalty of geography and program status.
Yeah.
If you possess the talent, the NFL infrastructure will find you, and they now have a dedicated, mathematically sound mechanism to draft you when your specific season concludes.
So it solves the logistical headaches for the NFL scouts, and as we discussed, it solves the broadcasting dreams for the television network.
It does.
But, and this is the massive human but in this entire equation,
The players.
what about the actual human beings wearing the helmets?
It's a critical question.
We are talking about rearranging billions of dollars and revamping the entire NFL scouting process. But shifting the athletic calendar so drastically introduces massive, terrifying physical and academic risks to the players.
It's a minefield.
Having two completely different seasons operating within the exact same academic calendar year.
Yeah, that brings us to perhaps the most vital part of this entire deep dive, protecting the student-athlete.
Because we absolutely cannot overstate the physical toll of this sport.
Football is an inherently violent, physically destructive game.
It really is.
The human body simply cannot handle the biomechanical stress of 11 straight months of full contact practice, actual games, and the grueling weight room requirements at the collegiate level.
No, absolutely not. You can't have a 19-year-old kid play a grueling 12-game fall season, endure the physical trauma of a bowl game in January, and then have his coach say, all right, lace your cleats back up. The spring season starts in 6 weeks. We need you on the field.
Their bodies would literally break down.
The injury rates would be catastrophic. And it is completely biologically unsustainable.
Right. So the proposal implements a strict, non-negotiable safeguard, roster locking.
Okay, let's talk about the roster locking mechanism.
It is the foundational health guardrail of this entire blueprint. It mandates that players absolutely cannot jump between seasons within a single school year.
Let me push back on how that actually works logistically, though, Because in the current landscape of college football, players transfer instantly.
It's a revolving door right now.
It is.
Ah.
If a kid wants to transfer from a fall team that just finished its season to a spring team that is about to start, are you legally locking him out?
You are.
But wouldn't the NCAA face massive antitrust lawsuits for restricting a player's ability to compete and earn money?
It is a valid legal question, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the proposal grounds this restriction in the academic calendar, which provides legal cover.
How so?
The breakage in the school year, specifically the winter break between the fall and spring semesters, acts as the hard institutional stopping point.
Oh, I see.
It functions similarly to standard academic eligibility windows, rather than some sort of employment lockout. By binding the athletic eligibility to the specific academic semester in which the team operates, the NCAA can legally enforce the roster lock.
And this roster locking doesn't just protect the ACLs and the concussions of the athlete, it inherently regulates the current absolute wild west of college football.
The transfer portal and name, image, and likeness, or NIL deals.
Exactly. It forces order upon chaos.
Right, because right now the NIL landscape is essentially unregulated free agency.
It totally is. Players can seemingly enter the transfer portal on a whim mid-season if a booster collective at a rival school offers them a more lucrative paycheck.
But under this two-season structure, the rules become inherently rigid.
Right. The source material notes that leaving your program before the school year starts or trying to jump ship during that critical winter break window to switch seasons could result in significant NIL hits.
Or contractual breaches, or even severe financial penalties.
It creates a structured contractual environment that currently just does not exist.
The NIL money will naturally follow the talent, whether that talent resides in the primetime fall league or the exclusive broadcast windows of the spring league.
But the bifurcated structure forces a level of commitment from the athlete.
You are binding the player to the academic calendar, ensuring that the short-term financial incentives of a booster payout do not completely override the structural integrity of the teams.
And the academic progress of the student.
Exactly.
So if I'm understanding the mechanics here, the winter break becomes the absolute firewall.
Yes.
So what does this all mean? When you step back and look at these rules, the roster locking, preventing season jumping, the contractual NIL penalties, the hard stops at the semester breaks, these aren't just arbitrary rules designed for competitive balance or to make the coaches' lives easier.
No, they are literal health and safety guardrails.
They are designed to save the players from themselves and, more importantly, from a massive collegiate sports complex that would gladly grind their bodies into dust for higher television ratings if it were legally allowed to do so.
That is a harsh, but frankly accurate assessment. And that necessity for protection leads directly into the academic side of the equation.
Which often gets ignored.
Completely. The source material uses a very specific traditional phrase that we really need to focus on here. Keep student-athletes as students first.
It sounds like a cliche.
It does.
It's the line every university president uses at a press conference while simultaneously signing a $100 million television contract that forces athletes to miss class for cross-country flights.
It frequently is a total cliche.
Yeah.
But what is fascinating about this framework is that it actually provides the logistical space and the structural mechanisms to make that cliche a reality.
Okay, let's deeply analyze how that works, because I want to know how these tailored bifurcated schedules actively support academic success and real graduation rates.
It really is tailored to the classroom when you look at the timeline. Let's look at the fall season first. Because it's consolidated into those 50 or 60 teams and designed to play right into the winter break of the school year, these fall players get a significantly longer, uninterrupted offseason.
Oh, that makes sense. Once their bowl game is over in January, they have the entire spring semester to just be regular college students.
Right. They aren't traveling out of state for games every single weekend. They aren't stuck in endless mandatory film sessions.
They can take heavier course loads, complete required labs, and focus on actually earning their degree.
And conversely, let's look at the spring season.
Right, because their timeline is completely flipped.
The timeline here is meticulously designed to play right into the spring finals period.
Because the supplementary draft for the spring players happens after their finals are over.
This raises an important question, and it's one the current NCAA administrative body constantly struggles to answer. Who actually dictates the timeline of a university, the athletic department, or the academic institution?
It's a great question.
By tying the professional evaluation, the supplementary draft, and the conclusion of the spring season strictly to the academic calendar, This proposal forcefully realigns the priorities of college sports.
It shifts the power back toward the student half of the equation.
It wrestles control away from the television networks and gives it back to the academic registrars.
Exactly. The academics dictate the athletic timeline, not the other way around.
The spring athletes can finish their coursework, sit for their final exams with relative peace of mind.
And then fully transition into their professional evaluations and draft preparations in the summer.
It honors the academic commitment they made to the university, rather than forcing them to choose between passing a midterm and attending an NFL combine.
It's an incredibly holistic approach to fixing a deeply broken, contradictory system.
It really covers all the bases.
We have covered some massive, complex ground here today.
We certainly have.
We started by looking at a completely reimagined world, where college football fixes its glaring oversaturation problem solving that 130-lane highway merging into a single toll booth by creating two distinct, highly functional lanes.
Right.
We explored the deep financial mechanisms of how creating a fall and spring split builds a literal 12-month TV empire for broadcasters, complete with new championships and exclusive broadcast windows.
Massive revenue shifts.
We unpack the existential terror and the brilliant meritocracy of the promotion and relegation model, building a true developmental league that allows sleeping giants like Boise State or Appalachian State to rise organically.
Which is just thrilling to think about.
We analyzed how a bifurcated NFL draft fundamentally changes how professional GMs scout and spend their salary caps,
Solving the logistical nightmare for the pros.
And finally, we saw how aligning all of these massive athletic shifts with strict academic calendars and roster locks actually protects the physical joints, the NIL contracts, and the graduation rates of the human beings actually playing the game.
It is a stunningly comprehensive, deeply radical remix of the sports architecture.
It is a profound structural thought experiment that highlights just how fragile and arbitrary our current systems truly are.
But before we conclude our analysis, there is one final unmentioned thread to pull here.
Oh.
An expanding ripple effect for you, the listener, to mull over as you consider the future landscape of American sports.
Lay it on us.
If this two-season promotion and relegation model is ever actually implemented in college football,
Okay.
and it successfully proves that American sports fans will tune into a Tier 2 developmental league out of pure regional pride.
And if they fully embrace the sheer, unadulterated existential drama of relegation.
Exactly. If a spring college league thrives on the pure meritocracy of promotion and relegation, generating massive television ratings from the desperate drama at the bottom of the standings,
Where are you going with this?
does this mean the traditional closed-loop franchise model of the NFL itself is fundamentally outdated?
Oh, wow. You are taking the college experiment and applying it to the pros.
If a spring college league generates billions by making every single game matter, could that undeniable financial success eventually force the NFL to open its own closed, billionaire-controlled doors?
That is a wild thought.
Could we one day see an NFL structure where the worst-performing teams don't just get rewarded with the first overall draft pick to bail them out of their incompetence, but actually get relegated to a lower professional tier?
It is a cascading systemic effect. A successful teardown of the collegiate model could ultimately challenge and reshape the absolute highest levels of professional sports in this country.
Just something to think about.
That is a wild, paradigm-shifting thought to leave on. The idea of the monolithic NFL eventually adopting promotion and relegation simply because college football took the leap first and proved the financial model worked.
It changes everything.
It just goes to show you that the best way to understand the future of sports isn't just to passively watch the games on a Saturday.
Right.
It's to take a massive step back, look at the invisible architecture of the system, and ask how the whole thing could be completely radically remixed. We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today.
It's been a great conversation.
And the next time you sit down on a fall Saturday, staring at that massive, chaotic bottleneck of games on your screen, just remember, there might be an entirely new, wide-open highway waiting to be built.